when harsh criticism turns into a defamation campaign. Carrie Underwood fights back. Carrie Underwood has always been a symbol of grace and resilience. From her small-town roots in Oklahoma to the dazzling heights of stardom, her journey has inspired millions. But after her recent performance, she found herself at the center of a controversy no one saw coming. What was meant to be a night of celebration turned into a media storm. Carrie was handpicked to perform a heartfelt rendition of the national anthem at the swearing-in ceremony of a newly elected official. Her performance was flawless, her voice soaring with its usual power. However, it was not her singing, but her decision to perform that ignited a firestorm of criticism. By the next morning, headlines were ablaze. Prominent liberal TV hosts dissected every aspect of her appearance, from the symbolism in her outfit to perceived political undertones in her song choice. What started as sharp commentary soon escalated into accusations that she was promoting divisive ideals. Social media erupted, with hashtags trending both in her support and against her. For someone who had always avoided political controversy, this was uncharted territory. The debate spiraled out of control, taking on a life of its own. Yet, amidst the chaos, Carrie stayed silent, watching, waiting, and, as it would later become clear, preparing. Because Carrie Underwood isn't just a performer, she's a fighter. And what she was about to do would shock the nation. This was only the beginning of a story that would challenge everything we know about freedom of speech, media accountability, and the personal cost of public criticism. A night that changed everything. The night of the performance was one of those rare moments where everything seemed to stop. Cameras zoomed in on Carrie as she stood on the grand stage in Washington, D.C., the Capitol gleaming behind her. She wore a simple yet elegant white dress, her signature blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. The air was heavy with anticipation. The first notes of the national anthem rang out. The power in her voice was undeniable. It wasn't just a song, it was a message, a unifying cry that resonated with the crowd gathered to witness history. While many praised her performance as heartfelt and pure, others saw it differently. The criticism began almost immediately. Some claimed her dress carried political symbolism, too stark, too deliberate. Others scrutinized a subtle change she made to the arrangement, interpreting it as a veiled critique of the administration. One prominent TV host called it a calculated PR stunt, while another accused her of selling out, her values for visibility. But what truly ignited the firestorm was a widely shared clip from the event. In it, Carrie finished her performance and briefly exchanged a smile and handshake. What happened next would set the stage for a battle unlike any she had faced before. Backlash intensifies. The brief exchange, a simple smile and handshake with the newly elected official, was all her critics needed. They wasted no time in painting Carrie as someone aligning herself with divisive policies. The narrative spread like wildfire. Within hours, Twitter exploded with reactions. "How could she?" wrote one critic. "This isn't the Carrie we knew." Others questioned her integrity, suggesting she had abandoned the small-town values she often sang about in favor of political opportunism. But Carrie's fans rallied behind her. Social media flooded with messages of support, arguing that she was simply doing her job, singing a song, not making a statement. Yet her silence in the days following the event only allowed speculation to fester. Every news cycle amplified the outrage, shifting the focus from her performance to her very character. And yet, Carrie didn't flinch. She remained quiet, absorbing every jab, every headline, waiting for the perfect moment to make her move. The relentless aftermath, the controversy refused to die down. Every major news channel, podcast, and social media feed dissected Carrie Underwood's performance. Liberal TV hosts at the center of the storm wasted no time in amplifying their critiques. Each segment became sharper, more personal, more calculated to fuel the narrative that her performance was not just an artistic expression, but a political statement. One show, known for its provocative commentary, played clips of her smiling at the newly elected official on a loop. "Is this the face of a neutral artist?" The host sneered, their tone dripping with sarcasm. Another host took aim at her lyrics, referencing an old song of hers and twisting its meaning to imply she had always harbored certain political leanings. The accusations grew more outlandish. Some commentators even questioned her faith, something she had always held close to her identity. Online forums and comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Supporters defended her authenticity, while critics called for boycotts of her music. Hashtags like Nosh Carrie, Underwood Exposed, and Nosh Carrie Stands Strong trended simultaneously, reflecting the deeply divided public opinion. But the media wasn't done. The TV hosts escalated their attack, bringing in so-called experts, body language analysts, political commentators, to scrutinize every frame of her performance. The line between criticism and outright defamation blurred as insinuations flew that Carrie's motives were insidious and self-serving. For days, Carrie remained silent. To some, her refusal to engage was a sign of guilt. To others, it was proof of her grace under pressure. Behind the scenes, however, she and her team were watching, documenting every comment, every accusation, every unsubstantiated claim. And when she finally spoke, the lawsuit that shook the industry Carrie Underwood didn't break her silence with a tweet or a press conference. Instead, she did it with a defamation lawsuit that sent shockwaves across the entertainment industry. With precision and intent, her legal team filed a lawsuit against the network hosting the liberal TV show at the center of the controversy, naming the prominent hosts individually. The suit alleged that their commentary had crossed the line from criticism into outright falsehoods, tarnishing her reputation and causing both emotional and professional harm. The legal document was as detailed as it was damning. It outlined how the hosts' repeated insinuations about her supposed political leanings were baseless and defamatory. It also highlighted their deliberate misrepresentation of her handshake with the official and the way they amplified false narratives purely to drive ratings. Carrie's team cited specific segments where the hosts questioned her faith and personal values, accusing them of attempting to dismantle her character rather than critique her performance. News of the lawsuit spread like wildfire. The same networks that had criticized her now scrambled to cover the story, with some even toning down their rhetoric as they dissected the legal implications. For Carrie's fans, it was a moment of vindication. Finally, one supporter wrote, "On social media, she's standing up for herself and showing them they can't just tear people down without consequences." The backlash and the battle ahead, but not everyone was in her corner. Critics claimed the lawsuit was an attack on free speech, with some accusing Carrie of being unable to handle public criticism. The liberal hosts named in the lawsuit doubled down, insisting that their commentary was protected under the First Amendment. One host even mocked the lawsuit on air, calling it a desperate attempt to silence the truth. Carrie, however, remained firm. In a brief public statement, she clarified that the lawsuit wasn't about suppressing freedom of speech but about holding people accountable for crossing ethical boundaries. "Words have power," she said, "and with that power comes responsibility." As the case moved forward, the court of public opinion remained deeply divided. News anchors and commentators across the political spectrum debated whether Carrie's move was a bold stand for accountability or a chilling precedent for media freedom. But while the debate raged outside the courtroom, inside, the stage was set for a legal battle that promised to reveal far more than anyone had anticipated. The trial begins. The courtroom was packed with journalists, fans, and curious spectators when the trial began. The air was thick with anticipation as Carrie Underwood entered, The turning point in court, Carrie Underwood entered the courtroom with poise, her presence unwavering. This wasn't the stage she was used to, but she carried herself with the same quiet confidence that had propelled her to stardom. This time, however, the performance wasn't for an audience, it was for justice. The legal battle was anything but straightforward. Carrie's lawyers opened with compelling evidence, playing clips from the TV segments in question. The words spoken by the liberal hosts weren't just harsh critiques, they were laced with insinuations, painting Carrie as a hypocrite and a political operative. Each clip was more damning than the last, showing how the hosts had deliberately built a narrative that blurred the line between commentary and outright character assassination. The defense fired back, arguing that their commentary was protected under the First Amendment. "We have the right to criticize public figures," one of their attorneys declared. Carrie Underwood is no exception. But Carrie's team was prepared. They introduced leaked emails from the show's producers, revealed during discovery, that exposed internal discussions about pushing a politically charged narrative to boost ratings. The messages contained directives to frame Carrie's performance as controversial, regardless of her actual intentions. As these revelations unfolded, the courtroom buzzed with murmurs. The evidence was damning. Carrie takes the stand. Then came Carrie's moment to testify. She spoke with quiet determination, recounting the emotional toll of being vilified in the media. "I've spent my entire career trying to bring people together through music," she said, "but these false accusations have tried to define me in ways that aren't true. And they haven't just hurt me, they've hurt my family." Her voice wavered slightly as she described how her children struggled to understand why their mother was being attacked on television. Then came the final blow. Carrie's lawyer presented the most damning piece of evidence, a secretly recorded conversation between two of the show's producers. On the tape, one producer admitted that the hosts had exaggerated their claims to make the segments more controversial. "Controversy sells," the producer said bluntly. The courtroom erupted. Gasps echoed through the gallery. The judge called for order as the defense scrambled to mitigate the damage. But it was clear. The momentum had shifted. Carrie Underwood wasn't just fighting back. She was winning. The verdict approaches even. The public, so divided at the start, began to take notice of the manipulative tactics exposed during the trial. But the looming question remained. Would the jury see this as a clear case of defamation? Or would they side with the hosts, defending their claims as protected free speech? The stakes had never been higher. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the world outside seemed just as polarized. News outlets on both sides of the political spectrum dissected every revelation, every testimony. Our social media turned into a war zone of heated debates about free speech, media ethics, and the responsibilities of public figures. Carrie's supporters flooded Instagram and Twitter with messages of encouragement, rallying behind hashtags like "Cheaters Stand with Carrie" and "Truth Matters." "This isn't just about her," one fan tweeted. "It's about how we let the media treat people. She's fighting for something bigger." On the other side, critics accused Carrie of trying to stifle the press. Prominent pundits argued that the case set a dangerous precedent. "If public figures can sue over harsh criticism," one commentator stated, "where does it end? This could silence the press." A larger conversation emerges, but by now, it wasn't just about Carrie anymore. The leaked emails and the secretly recorded conversation had ignited a much larger debate, one about the ethics of modern media. Journalists across networks debated the fine line between fair commentary and targeted defamation. Public figures came forward with their own experiences of being misrepresented, adding fuel to the fire. In coffee shops and office break rooms, the conversation spread to everyday Americans. Some sympathized with Carrie, recognizing the emotional toll of relentless media scrutiny. Others worried about the implications, what this case could mean for journalism, for freedom of the press, and for the future of public discourse. And as the jury deliberated, the world waited. The verdict was just around the corner. A victory. Beyond the courtroom, the nation remained gripped by the case, not just for the drama, but for what it revealed about the ever-blurring boundaries of media, truth, and accountability. Despite the noise surrounding her, Carrie Underwood stayed quiet, appearing calm and focused during her courtroom appearances. She let the evidence speak for itself, refusing to engage in public tit-for-tat battles. Her restraint only added to the intrigue, leaving everyone guessing how it would end. Then came the final verdict. The courtroom was silent as the jury returned, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. The foreperson stood and delivered the words that would send shockwaves across the industry. We find in favor of the plaintiff, Carrie Underwood. The words landed like a seismic shift. Carrie's face remained composed, but the slight rise of her shoulders betrayed the enormous weight she had been carrying. It was a resounding victory. The jury had determined that the hosts and their network had indeed crossed the line, defaming her with reckless disregard for the truth. Damages were awarded in the millions, not just as compensation, but as a statement about accountability in media practices. The aftermath public reaction was swift and passionate. Supporters of Carrie celebrated the verdict as a triumph for fairness and integrity. "This isn't about silencing criticism," one fan posted. "It's about drawing a line when that criticism becomes harmful lies." Others viewed it as a much-needed reckoning for sensationalist media, applauding Carrie for taking a stand, not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever been unfairly dragged through the mud by reckless headlines. But critics decried the decision as a chilling blow to free speech. Opinion pieces questioned what this would mean for journalists, especially those who comment on public figures. Some of the accused hosts remained defiant, vowing to appeal. But their reputations had already taken a serious hit. Networks scrambled to reassess their editorial policies, suddenly aware that there were real consequences for reckless reporting. For Carrie, the victory was bittersweet. Standing outside the courthouse, she addressed the crowd in an emotional statement. "This was never about silencing anyone," she said, her voice steady despite the clear emotion in her eyes. "It was about truth. Words matter, and they have real consequences. I hope this reminds everyone in the media to choose them wisely." She spoke about the toll the trial had taken, not just on her, but on her family. There were moments she had wanted to walk away, to let the storm pass. But she had stayed the course, driven by the belief that the fight was bigger than her. "This wasn't just about clearing my name," she continued. "It was about reminding all of us that accountability matters, no matter how powerful the platform." A lasting impact. In the months that followed, the case left a lasting imprint. Media organizations reevaluated their editorial practices, now more cautious about the lines they were willing to cross. Talk show hosts and commentators weighed their words more carefully, realizing that irresponsible speculation could have real consequences. For fans and viewers alike, the trial served as a stark reminder of the humanity behind the headlines, urging a shift toward more thoughtful and ethical discourse. Carrie's battle had been hard fought, but in the end, she had done more than defend her own name. She had set a precedent, one that would shape the future of media accountability for years to come. And as she walked away from the courthouse, the storm behind her, one thing was clear. Carrie Underwood wasn't just a fighter. She was a force of change. Standing up for truth. The power of words and resilience. Carrie Underwood's journey wasn't just about winning a legal battle. It was about reclaiming dignity and truth in a world that often sacrifices them for controversy. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that public figures, despite being under constant scrutiny, are still human beings deserving of respect and fairness. This case highlights an undeniable truth. Words have power. Whether spoken on national television, typed in a tweet, or shared in a private conversation, what we say carries weight. Words can uplift or destroy, sometimes with consequences we never foresee. Carrie's fight challenges us to be more thoughtful in how we engage with others, especially in an era where opinions spread faster than ever. It's a call to hold both the media and ourselves accountable for the narratives we create and consume. As we reflect on her resilience, let's remember the importance of standing up for what's right, even when the odds feel insurmountable. Whether it's protecting your reputation, defending your values, or seeking justice, staying true to yourself is always worth it. If Carrie's story moved or inspired you, let's continue the conversation. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge the norm, spark meaningful discussions, and remind us of the power of truth. Together, we can make a difference, because in the end, it's not just about what happens to Carrie, but what we all learn from it.